Padamji, you can start.
Okay. हेलो फ्रेंड्स, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं हमारा जो आज वेबिनार का टॉपिक है आर्बिट्रेशन लॉ, अ ब्रीफ ओवरव्यू। इससे पहले भी हमने आर्बिट्रेशन पे एक वेबिनार किया था जिसमें मिस्टर करण भारद्वाज जी ने हमारे सामने सब्जेक्ट को थोड़ा सा रखा था। उसी कड़ी को आगे बढ़ाते हुए आज हमारे बीच में श्री विशाल गर्ग जी, एडवोकेट, पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाईकोर्ट हमारे बीच में है। विशाल जी मूलतः बरनाला पंजाब से बिलोंग करते हैं। बरनाला से ग्रेजुएशन करने के बाद 2004 में एलएलबी की डिग्री पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी से उन्होंने हासिल की और कुछ समय डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट में प्रैक्टिस करने के बाद से पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाईकोर्ट में प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं। इससे पहले वो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पंजाब में असिस्टेंट एडवोकेट जनरल रह चुके हैं और गवर्नमेंट ऑफ हरियाणा में एडिशनल एडवोकेट जनरल की भूमिका भी निभा चुके हैं। विशाल जी सिविल केसेस में माहिरता रखते हैं और विशाल जी मेरे पुराने मित्र हैं, तो उनके बारे में कुछ और बातें भी मैं आपके बीच में बताना चाहूंगा। विशाल जी बचपन से ही सोशल सर्विस में बहुत बिलीव करते हैं, बहुत सारी सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से जुड़े हुए हैं और इस पेंडेमिक के दौर में विशाल जी ने कई सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को लीड करते हुए, उनके साथ काम करते हुए बहुत सारा रिलीफ वर्क भी किया है, जैसे फूड पैकेट्स पहुंचाना घरों में, माइग्रेंट्स को सड़कों पर फूड पैकेट्स पहुंचाना, उनके जाने की व्यवस्था करना उनकी पेरेंट स्टेट्स में। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे काम विशाल जी ने पिछले वक्त में किए हैं और आप सभी उनसे परिचित होंगे। तो आज का विषय जो है आर्बिट्रेशन लॉ है। आर्बिट्रेशन जब वर्ड बोला जाता है तो एकदम से मन में आता है रेजोल्यूशन ऑफ डिस्प्यूट्स। कोई भी झगड़े हैं उनको निपटाने की कोशिश करना, उसको निपटाना, क्योंकि वो झगड़े कोर्ट्स में टाइम लगता है तो उसको निपटाने का एक अलग तरीका है। ऐसा नहीं है कि आर्बिट्रेशन लॉ इंडिया में 1940 में आया या फिर उसके बाद 1996 में ही आया। अगर हम इसकी हिस्ट्री देखें तो अगर आप बृहद्रनायका उपनिषद में देखें तो भी आर्बिट्रेशन मध्यस्थता का वर्णन है। अगर आप त्रेता युग में जाए रामायण काल में तो आप देखेंगे जो युद्ध हुआ लंका में, उसको युद्ध करने से पहले भगवान राम ने कई बार प्रयास किया कि ये झगड़ा जो है आर्बिट्रेशन से, मीडिएशन से सुलझ जाए। उसके लिए उन्होंने हनुमान को भेजा, अंगद को भेजा और विभीषण का भी उसमें एक रोल रहा निपटाने के लिए, बट वो सॉल्व नहीं हुआ तो अंततः लड़ाई हुई। अगर हम महाभारत काल में आए तो वहां भी श्री कृष्ण ने बहुत कोशिश की कि दोनों कौरवों और पांडवों को बिठा के उनके बीच भी मध्यस्थता करने की कोशिश की, पर नहीं हुआ तो महाभारत का युद्ध हुआ। तो आर्बिट्रेशन की जो हिस्ट्री है वो बहुत पुरानी। इंडिया में 1772 में आर्बिट्रेशन नाम का जो प्रोविजंस आई वो आई, पर एक्ट के फॉर्म में 1940 में आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट आया आपके सामने और उसके बाद 1996 में। तो ज्यादा आगे ना कहते हुए मैं माननीय विशाल जी को आमंत्रित करता हूं कि वो आज का जो विषय है हम सबके सामने प्रस्तुत करें। विशाल जी।
थैंक यू पदम जी, आपने इतना कुछ बोल दिया कि आपने वैसे ही कॉन्शियस कर दिया कि क्या बोलें क्या ना बोलें। लेकिन जैसा पदम जी ने बोला कि आर्बिट्रेशन की हिस्ट्री हमारी कल्चर में, हमारे कंट्री में कोई बहुत नया कंसेप्ट है, ऐसी बात नहीं है। अभी शेखर जी अपने बीच में है तो मेरे को शेखर जी की एक पोस्ट ध्यान में आ गई। जब पीछे रामायण चल रही थी तो जब भरत मिलाप का सीन हम सबको पता है कि भरत कहते हैं कि राम आप राजा बनो और राम कहते हैं कि नहीं, कि पापा ने, पिताजी ने कहा है कि तू ही राजा रहेगा और मैं तो जंगल में रहूंगा। तो उस टाइम उन दोनों के बीच में आर्बिट्रेशन होती है और आर्बिट्रेटर कौन बनते हैं? राजा जनक बनते हैं। और वो दोनों कहते हैं कि नहीं ये मेरा आर्गुमेंट है और भरत बोलते हैं कि ये मेरा आर्गुमेंट है। तो उन दोनों को लेके वो डिसाइड करते हैं और ऐसा डिसाइड करते हैं कि दोनों विन विन सिचुएशन में होते हैं। बेसिकली आर्बिट्रेशन का कंसेप्ट ही ये है कि जिसमें दोनों तरफ का ही ध्यान रख के, दोनों तरफ को बराबर रख के एक इम्पार्शियल, एक जिसको कहते हैं जस्टिफाइड व्यू दोनों को दिया जाए, और विदाउट एनी बिटरनेस, विदाउट एनी जिसको हम कहें लड़ाई झगड़ा, उस चीज को सॉल्व किया जाए। तो आर्बिट्रेशन का जो बेसिक कंसेप्ट है वो है टू रिजॉल्व द डिस्प्यूट्स बिटवीन टू पार्टीज विदाउट और विद मिनिमम इंटरफेरेंस ऑफ द कोर्ट। अगर हम आर्बिट्रेशन के कंसेप्ट में हम जाएंगे तो हमें यही ध्यान में आता है। और अब दूसरी बात यह है कि जब डिस्प्यूट्स को सॉल्व करने के लिए हमें कोर्ट्स की जरूरत नहीं है, या कोर्ट्स के बाहर हमने डिस्प्यूट सॉल्व करने हैं, तो बाकी सारे डिस्प्यूट्स क्यों नहीं? तो उसमें एक अगला एस्पेक्ट इसमें जुड़ता है कि जहां पर पार्टीज के बीच में लीगल रिलेशनशिप है, when the parties are having a legal relationship between them, and because of that relationship there is some dispute or there might be some dispute, so the parties decide among themselves that in case of dispute or for this dispute, so and so person or such and such authority shall be the deciding factor and he shall decide the matter, who is right or who is wrong and what should be the further course of action. So ये बेसिक कंसेप्ट है कि जहां पर दो पार्टीज एक किसी लीगल रिलेशनशिप में एंटर करते हुए अपने साथ ये भी डिसाइड करती हैं कि इन केस ऑफ डिस्प्यूट व्हाट विल बी द मोडस और व्हाट विल बी द मैकेनिज्म टू रिजॉल्व दैट डिस्प्यूट। इसलिए ये दोनों पार्टीज की एमिकेबल सेटलमेंट, दोनों पार्टीज की म्यूचुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग, दोनों पार्टीज की मीटिंग ऑफ माइंड्स के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है कि वो किसको वो बनाते हैं। इसमें वो दे आर एट टोटल लिबर्टी, वो जिसको चाहे उसको आर्बिट्रेटर डिसाइड कर सकते हैं, वो जिसको चाहे जैसे चाहे वैसा उसका प्रोसीजर रख सकते हैं, जैसे चाहे उसकी लैंग्वेज रख सकते हैं, सो दैट लीगल टेक्निकलिटीज और जो सिविल कोर्ट की टेक्निकलिटीज होती हैं उनके कारण से जो एक बिजनेस एटमॉस्फेयर है, जो एक बिजनेस फ्रेंडली एटमॉस्फेयर है, वो खराब नहीं होना चाहिए। और लोगों को जो अपने झगड़ों के कारण से उनके जो रूटीन के काम है वो रुकने नहीं चाहिए। नहीं तो हम लोग देखते हैं कई बार कई पुराने डिस्प्यूट हमारे पास आते हैं, हम लोग क्योंकि सारे हाईकोर्ट के प्रैक्टिस करने वाले लॉयर्स हैं, तो जब तक हमारे पास सेकंड अपील आती है तो हम देखते हैं कि सूट कब फाइल हुआ था, 1990 के अंदर सूट फाइल हुआ था। मैंने एक आरएस से आर्ग्यू की हुई है यहाँ पर अपनी हाईकोर्ट के अंदर, 2007 या 8 की बात है, उसमें सूट 1958 में फाइल हुआ था। 2-3 बार वो रिमांड बैक होता रहा, चलता रहा, करता रहा, करते करते आरएस से 2007 या 8 में हमने आर्ग्यू की थी 1958 के सूट की। सो टू अवॉइड ऑल दीज थिंग्स, जल्दी से जल्दी इन ए शॉर्टर स्पैन द डिस्प्यूट शुड बी सॉल्व्ड, सो आर्बिट्रेशन एग्रीमेंट इज देयर। अभी पदम जी अपने साथ स्क्रीन शेयर कर रहे हैं, उसमें व्हाट इज आर्बिट्रेशन, इसी का कंसेप्ट हमने पहली स्क्रीन पे आपको दिखाई दे रहा होगा। अब अगर हम आज के एक्ट के ऊपर आए तो हम जानते हैं कि हम आर्बिट्रेशन एंड कंसिलिएशन एक्ट 1996 से हम लोग डील कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उससे पहले जैसा पदम जी ने कहा कि इसकी हिस्ट्री यहीं से शुरू नहीं होती। कोडिफाइड हिस्ट्री जो है दैट गोज टू 1940 व्हेन आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट 1940 वाज देयर, और उसको सपोर्ट करने के लिए 2 और एक्ट्स थे। उन एक्ट्स के नाम भी मैं आपको बताऊंगा। एक एक्ट का नाम था आर्बिट्रेशन प्रोटोकॉल एंड कन्वेंशन एक्ट 1937 एंड फॉरेन अवार्ड्स एक्ट 1961। ये 3 एक्ट थे जो कुल मिलाकर आर्बिट्रेशन की जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स थी, जो आर्बिट्रेशन की सारी नीड्स थी, उनको फुलफिल करते थे। लेकिन हम सब जानते हैं 1991 के अंदर एक ग्लोबलाइजेशन का कंसेप्ट आया, बिजनेस मॉडल, बाकी सब चीजें एकदम से वर्ल्ड ओवर चेंज हुई, और उसी के बाद यूएन की कन्वेंशन भी हुई कि भाई हमें आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट सारी दुनिया में एक जैसा होना चाहिए, सारी दुनिया में इसके कंसेप्ट जो है वो मॉडर्न टाइम्स के मुताबिक होने चाहिए। तो इन सारे एक्ट्स को रिपील करके आर्बिट्रेशन एंड कंसिलिएशन एक्ट 1996 जो आज की डेट में हम जिस एक्ट से डील करते हैं वो एक्ट इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया। अब ये एक्ट भी फर्दर अमेंड हुआ रिसेंटली, हम लोगों को सबको पता है 2015 में एक अमेंडमेंट आई इसकी, 2016 की थी विद इफेक्ट फ्रॉम 2015, एंड सेकंड अमेंडमेंट हैज कम इन 2019 रिसेंटली। सो I will be restricting myself to the finally amended act of 2019, the act which is coming from 1996, and the shape it has taken with the amendment of 2019. So that will be the area of my argument today. So first of हमें
विशाल जी थोड़ी आवाज
arbitration
आवाज
का
कट बस एक सेकंड
कट रही
थोड़ा सिग्नल
अब देखिए आ रही है सिग्नल की
हाँ
प्रॉब्लम है
जी
या वैसे
सिग्नल
वॉल्यूम की प्रॉब्लम थी
सिग्नल की ठीक है कंटिन्यू कंटिन्यू
okay so section 7 of the act defines what is an arbitration agreement. It says that arbitration agreement will be in respect of for the present disputes, or it can be for the disputes which may arise during their relationship, particular transaction. It's clear that the agreement is in writing. It cannot be an agreement. Arbitration agreement shall always be in writing. And secondly, it is always independent of the main agreement, though it is part of the agreement, but it is independent of the other terms and conditions of that agreement, and it is an independent agreement between two parties. And thirdly, you can say that this agreement can be for the present or the future disputes. So this is basically the arbitration agreement. The second part of the definition is what is arbitral award. The section 2 of the act is quite silent about the definition of the award. What is award? It simply says that award includes interim award. पदम जी आप उसको रहने ही दो, उसकी थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, ठीक है? So it says arbitral award includes interim award. So any decision, any order passed by the arbitral tribunal which decides the rights of the parties either at the end of the proceeding or during the proceedings, that includes in the term of award. That is an award, whether it's prior to the final award or at the time of the award. So that is the definition of award. Court, as we all know, that Punjab Courts Act provides that the district court is the court of principal jurisdiction. So that is the same definition has been adopted by this arbitration act. As far as I'm talking about this region, Punjab and Haryana. Now, the thing is, what is the arbitral tribunal? On the screen, it is not there. One concept, arbitral tribunal. The Arbitration Act provides that arbitral tribunal will be of, it can be panel or it can be a single person arbitrator, sole arbitrator, which we say. So it talks about only arbitral panel. It can be of single person or it can be more than one person. So generally it's sole arbitrator or three arbitrators. In case of three arbitrators, the general practice is that one arbitrator shall be appointed by each party. So two arbitrators will be there, and both of them, they will decide about the third arbitrator, who shall be the presiding arbitrator. Generally we call him as umpire, but now the term is presiding arbitrator. Earlier we used to call him umpire. So the other thing is that what will be the effect of arbitration agreement? So if two parties have entered into an agreement which contains an arbitration clause, what effect this clause will be having on their rights? So section 5 of the Arbitration Act clearly says that in case of an arbitration agreement, no court shall entertain or maintain any plea with regard to a dispute which is subject matter of the arbitration agreement. So the jurisdiction of the civil court is barred by the virtue of section 5. So once arbitration is there, arbitration clause is there, arbitration agreement is there, so disputes are to be referred to the arbitration only. But now the question arises, sometimes one party might be smart, they file a civil suit or they file some other thing before the court, without disclosing that there was an arbitration agreement and our relations are governed by the arbitration agreement. So what will be the remedy with the other party? So section 8 of the act provides that as soon as the other party comes to know that there is an proceedings or civil suit or anything else has been filed by the other party, in spite of the fact that there is an arbitration clause, that party immediately, at the earliest, not later than filing of their statement of defense, which we call as written statement. So immediately before filing any response or reply, they would come to the court with an application that there is an arbitration clause, there is an arbitration agreement between the parties for this very dispute. So this matter should be referred to the arbitration. So in this case, the court is just to see that, first of all, whether the arbitration agreement is there. Number two, the dispute which is the subject matter of the suit or the proceedings pending before the court is covered by that arbitration agreement or not. Only these two things are to be seen. So if both the answers are in yes, the court will return the plaint and it will say that you are referred to arbitration, you should go for the arbitration. Sometimes we think that in such scenario, court will decide that who will be the arbitrator or who will be leading the proceedings. No, court is just to return the plaint and to say that you are referred to the arbitration, you should go for the arbitration. Now it's up to the parties that they should take the recourse as given in their arbitration agreement to start the arbitration proceedings. They should appoint the arbitrator. If they don't appoint the arbitrator, then the parties can take the recourse of the appointment of arbitrators under section 11, which I will coming later on. So this is the mechanism in case a civil suit is filed in case of arbitration agreement. Secondly, what is the course of action in case the application of application under section 8 is rejected? That an order refusing to accept the application under section 8 will be appealable order. So if section 8 application is
विशाल जी, थोड़ी सी आवाज कट आपकी रह गई थी, दोबारा से सेक्शन 8 से स्टार्ट करिएगा कि आप व्हाट
सेक्शन 8 कहां से?
रेमेडी ऑफ सेक्शन 8 आफ्टर सेक्शन 8.
Okay. So the thing is, in case this application under section 8 is rejected, is entered or is dismissed by the learned court, what will be the course? So we will have to go to section 37 of the act, which says any order refusing to grant relief under section 8 will be an appealable order, and any order accepting the application, that is not an appealable order, that will be under 227. This is the situation reverse to the situation under order 7 rule 11. Under order 7 rule 11, if we file an application that the plaint should be returned and the plaint is returned, that order is appealable order. But in case that application is rejected, that order is a revisable order under article 227. But the situation in this case is totally reverse. Refusal is an appealable order, but acceptance of that application is an revisable order. So this is a difference over here. So now, this was the section 8 application that in case a person approaches the court without disclosing, then what will be the remedy available to the other party? Now we should come to the appointment of arbitrator. अगर हम सारा जो आज अभी तक की डिस्कशन है, तो इसका ये तो क्लियर है कि आर्बिट्रेशन एग्रीमेंट हो गया. आर्बिट्रेशन एग्रीमेंट होने के बाद जो भी उसकी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस थी, आप पार्टीज उसको फुलफिल कर रही थी. डिस्प्यूट दोनों पार्टीज के बीच में आ गया. डिस्प्यूट आने पे अपॉइंटमेंट कैसे होगी आर्बिट्रेटर की, तो इसके बारे में सेक्शन 11 इज दी, जिसको मैं कहूंगा कि दैट इज द टोटल कोड कि हाउ द आर्बिट्रेटर शैल बी अपॉइंटेड। सेक्शन 11 जो इस आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट का है, क्लियरली सेज दैट द पार्टीज आर फ्री, दे आर एट टोटल लिबर्टी टू डिसाइड द मैकेनिज्म टू अपॉइंट एन एनी आर्बिट्रेटर। वो एक आर्बिट्रेटर रखना चाहते हैं, वो 3 रखना चाहते हैं, इट इज अप टू देम। झगड़ा 100 रुपए का हो, झगड़ा 1 करोड़ का हो, इसमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, वो एक आर्बिट्रेटर रखें या 3 आर्बिट्रेटर रखें, इट इज अप टू देम। I will be talking about in generally in case of sole arbitration, जहां पर सिंगल आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट करना है, पार्टीज के अंदर डिस्प्यूट खड़ा हो गया, तो जिस पार्टी को लगता है कि आई एम एट द रिसीविंग एंड या मेरे को कोई लॉस हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ द एक्ट एंड कंडक्ट ऑफ द अदर पार्टी, दैट पार्टी कैन इन्वोक द आर्बिट्रेशन क्लॉज। उस आर्बिट्रेशन इन क्लॉज को इन्वोक करने के लिए उसको क्या करना है, उसको सिंपली एक लेटर लिखना है दूसरी पार्टी को कि दिस वाज द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बिटवीन अस, this was the job done, but now there are certain disputes which are as under। उन disputes को बता देना है कि ये इस चीज को लेके झगड़ा, इस चीज को लेके झगड़ा, इस चीज को लेके झगड़ा। So and we are already having a arbitration clause, so you are requested to invoke the arbitration clause and appoint an arbitrator, or this is the person which I propose that he should be the arbitrator, or you should come with a proposal that who should be the arbitrator। ये सिंपल एक पन्ने का नोटिस भी अगर पार्टी ने दे दिया so that is sufficient। Section 11(4) and 11(5) provides that in case of notice is received, तो अदर पार्टी को, दूसरी पार्टी को 30 दिन के अंदर अंदर उस नोटिस के बारे में रिस्पॉन्ड करना है। अब उसको रिस्पॉन्ड करना है, या तो वो आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट करेंगे, आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट कर दिया, वेल एंड गुड, एवरीथिंग कम्स टू एन एंड। अगर उन्होंने आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट नहीं किया विद इन 30 डेज, द अदर पार्टी जिसने के नोटिस भेजा था उसके पास एक रेमेडी है, दे कैन गो टू द हाई कोर्ट, बिकॉज आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट डोमेस्टिक आर्बिट्रेशन ओनली, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू फॉरेन आर्बिट्रेशन। So they have the remedy to go to high court. If this was the dispute, I have sent them a notice, 30 days have passed, but they have not appointed the arbitrator, so I am applying before this court that an arbitrator should be appointed। So now the ball is within the court of the court कि वो उस चीज को अपॉइंट करे। थर्ड रेमेडी उनके पास, दूसरी पार्टी के पास फिर एक और है कि वो आपकी उस नोटिस का रिप्लाई दे कि जी ये आपने जो नोटिस भेजा है, दीज डिस्प्यूट्स आर नॉट आर्बिट्रेबल, या दिस इज नॉट मेंटेनेबल, या अभी वो सिचुएशन नहीं आई है कि हम आर्बिट्रेशन पे जाए। बट इन केस दे आर नॉट, दे डोंट अपॉइंट द आर्बिट्रेटर, द रेमेडी विल बी 11(6), द पार्टी विल बी गोइंग टू हाई कोर्ट एंड दे विल बी मेकिंग ए प्रेयर दैट आर्बिट्रेटर शुड बी अपॉइंटेड। अब अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ आर्बिट्रेटर का जो वहां पर आके भी दूसरी पार्टी वही सवाल जवाब, सॉरी क्या नाम है, स्टैंड ले सकती है कि जी ये डिस्प्यूट जो है दे आर नॉट आर्बिट्रेबल। तो जो मैंने पहले कहा था कि डिस्प्यूट्स शुड बी आर्बिट्रेबल फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ आर्बिट्रेटर और टू इनिशिएट द प्रोसीडिंग्स, सो दैट इज द वेरी फर्स्ट रिक्वायरमेंट। अभी पीछे एक दिन मैं कोर्ट में था, पदम जी का एक केस था, बाई चांस ही वाज नॉट अवेलेबल, सो आई अपीयर्ड फॉर हिम। इन दैट केस also the Padamji's client had taken a stand that arbitration clause says in case of short disputes or in case of very negligible disputes, it will be referred to arbitrator. And the other party was saying that as there is a provision, as there is a fraud, so the matter should be referred to arbitration. So हमारा stand यही था कि जी एक तो पहली बात कि ये मिनिमम छोटा से छोटा डिस्प्यूट होना चाहिए, या जिसको मेरे को वो पर्टिकुलर टर्म ध्यान में नहीं आ रही है, मतलब दैट वाज कि बहुत छोटे से डिस्प्यूट होंगे उनको आर्बिट्रेशन को रेफर किया जाएगा। और दूसरा, फ्रॉड इज नॉट ए डिस्प्यूट व्हिच कैन बी रेफर टू आर्बिट्रेशन, इट नीड्स इन्वेस्टिगेशन, सो इट कैन नॉट बी रेफर टू आर्बिट्रेशन। तो उस केस में वो 11(6) की एप्लीकेशन डिसमिस हुई थी। सो दिस इज द बेसिक concept for the appointment of arbitrator under 11(6). Judgments are there that under order passed under 11(6) is an administrative order, but now it has been said that it is appealable order before the Honorable Supreme Court, not LPA but before Honorable Supreme Court. So next thing is that person will be appointed as arbitrator, but who will be the arbitrator? Earlier there was no such qualification or disqualification given in the act who will be the arbitrator. any party with any person who is agreeable to both the parties, he can be the arbitrator. But now a schedule has been inserted with the amendment of 2016. This is called Schedule 5th. It clearly says that any person who is having any relationship, past, future, or present, with the parties. Future it cannot be because we never know whether there will be a relationship or not. Past or present futureship of employer-employee, even of the professional relationship, as we are the lawyers, we might be representing one party at one point of time, or we might be on the standing counsel of some institution, party, anything. So any such person cannot be the arbitrator. So if we see the schedule fifth, so it has given a number of instances which are uh, basically which are illustrative, that these kinds of the relationship should not be there. And in these instances, if there any of the circumstances there, the person will not be qualified to be arbitrator between two parties. And even the person who has been appointed arbitrator, he is also required to file an affidavit that I don't have any relationship or as given in Schedule 5th with either the parties. Schedule 6 provides for a format of the affidavit that is to be filed by the arbitrator, that I don't have any relationship as given in the Schedule 5 with the parties, so I can be arbitrator. So this is the concept, that who is the qualified person to be an arbitrator. Second, earlier there was no provision that what is the fees to be paid. It was between the three parties, arbitrator and two parties, that how much fees they settle. But now a model fees has been given. It's up to parties whether they agree or not agree. But a model fees has been given in case of institutional arbitration. That is Schedule 4. It says that arbitral tribunal will be paid this much fees. Slabs have been given. And interestingly, one line has been written that in case of arbitral tribunal is of single person or sole arbitrator. So it means the fees is to be given to the entire tribunal. There was quite a number of cases where the panel was saying that this fees is to be paid to all individuals. But it has been clarified by the DB of our High Court, and in number of cases, that it is this fees is for the entire tribunal, whether he is a sole arbitrator or there is a panel of arbitrator. So now, what is the modus of operandi to challenge the appointment of arbitrator? So Section 12 of the Act provides that any party can challenge the appointment of arbitrator on two grounds. Number one, that he is not qualified as per the Schedule 5, that he has any relationship or he has any disqualification as given in the schedule. Or secondly, because now there is a time frame that the arbitration proceedings are to be concluded within a period of 12 months. So if the party is able to show that the arbitrator is a person that who cannot conclude these proceedings within 12 months, or he's not in a position to conclude the proceedings within the period of 12 months, he can challenge the appointment of the arbitrator. The question that this party or this person was involved at the time of the appointment of arbitrator, that will not make them you can say ineligible to challenge his appointment on these grounds. He can always challenge these grounds. So now the next thing is, what is the jurisdiction of the arbitral tribunal? So the jurisdiction of the arbitral tribunal is all the disputes in respect of that very particular contract or agreement which are referable to arbitration. We all know there is a concept of accepted matters. We all have done, must have done the cases. It generally is in concept of, in the context of those agreement between procuring agencies and the rice mills, which custom milling the rice. उन एग्रीमेंट्स के अंदर एक क्लॉज होती थी कि these disputes shall be decided by the managing director and the decision of the MD shall be final. और फिर नीचे होता था कि all disputes shall be referable to arbitration who will be the person appointed by MD. So अब उसमें जो वो ऊपर वाले disputes हैं, वो जो सारे डिस्प्यूट्स थे दे वर एक्सेप्टेड मैटर्स, कि उनके लिए तो दूसरी दोनों पार्टीज ने आपस में पहले ही डिसाइड कर लिया कि जो भी कोई डिस्प्यूट होगा दैट विल बी डिसाइडेड बाय एमडी एंड रेस्ट ऑफ द डिस्प्यूट्स विल बी गोइंग टू आर्बिट्रेशन. So this is the jurisdiction of arbitral tribunal. Secondly, as I have earlier said, that the concept of the arbitration is that there should be no interference of the court or there should be minimum interference of the court. So latest judgment has come of the Honorable Supreme Court, wherein it has been said that even the question of limitation, that whether the claim is within limitation or beyond limitation, that should also be decided by the arbitrator himself. Because earlier we used to take the defense in 11.6 that the dispute is beyond limitation. He has come after this much time. So that question has also been now left over to arbitrator. He is to decide that whether the disputes are within limitation or without limitation. So now coming to award, what is the पदम जी इसमें ना वो एक नीचे होगा interim measures वाला, वो हाँ interim relief वाला. First of all, I will be coming to this interim relief part. We all know that in civil suits we generally file applications under Order 39 Rule 1 and 2 for interim relief, that till the suit is decided, status quo or these things should be maintained. Similarly, there is a concept of pre-litigation interim measures and during the pendency of the arbitration proceedings in Arbitration Act. दो पार्टीज के बीच में डिस्प्यूट हो गया, they cannot go to court, we know, because of arbitration clause. One party who is in the possession of the material or goods, he can change the scenario, he can change the situation, he can take the benefit of that possession. So what is the remedy available to the other party? So the remedy available to other party is to approach the appropriate court under section 9. That otherwise section 9 provides pre-arbitration, during the proceedings, or even after the award has been passed but before its enforcement, interim measures can be granted. But it is basically a concept for the pre-arbitration proceedings. All the interim reliefs which are required to secure the interest of the parties and to secure the justice, that can be asked for during under this application under section 9. So once application under section 9 is filed and that is decided, but still arbitration proceedings are not there because that has been filed prior to the initiation of the proceedings, what will be the further course of action? So the section 9 itself provides that as soon as the section application under section 9 is decided, the arbitration proceedings are to be initiated within 90 days of that order. So section itself provides that. And secondly, during the pendency of the arbitration proceedings, the situation is same. The one party is in the possession of the material, or there are such things that as if one party has become person of unsound mind, so what will be the remedy? So in that case also, the party can approach the arbitral tribunal under section 17 that this is the situation. So during the pendency of these arbitral proceedings, this situation, this status quo, these things should be maintained, or the other party should be restrained from doing anything, as we do in 39(1) and 2. So any order passed under section 9 or section 17, that order is an appealable order under section 37. So these are the interim measures. Now the latest judgment has come of the Supreme Court. Mr. Padam will be circulating a note between us in the WhatsApp group that includes all the judgments and other things are mentioned in that note. I am not talking of saying citing those judgments here. That will be available in the note. The latest judgment says that even in case of proceedings before this arbitration, courts generally should not entertain the application under Section 9, though it provides for, but generally they should not entertain, and it should go to the arbitral tribunal. Courts can interfere during the pendency of the proceedings only if they are of the view that the efficacious remedy does not lie with the arbitration, or that is not the proper remedy. It can be only done by the court. Only in that scenario, a Section 9 application before, during the pendency of arbitration proceedings can be maintained. So now, arbitrators are appointed, their fees has been decided, and everything has been done, the proceedings start. So arbitration proceedings are like civil suit. आप उसमें अपना statement of claims file करते हो, the other party files their statement of defense. With statement of defense, they can file their counter claims, and if the counter claims come, the other parties is at liberty to file their reply to the counter claims, as well as to their replication to the written statement filed by the opposite party. Then evidence is there. Generally, because the claim statement of claim and the defense statement, they are accompanied by the documents, and there is very little scope of oral evidence in this arbitration, and it's basically document based. So generally they say that whatever we have submitted, that should be taken as our defense documents, or they can record the statements, and even they can cross-examine the other party if a party wishes to do so. Then arguments are heard, and after the arguments are heard, the arbitral tribunal will be passing the award. So now Section 31 provides for Section 31 provides for the contents of the award, that how the award shall be passed. It clearly says that the award should be in writing. We all know that there can be no oral award, it will be in writing always. Secondly, it should be signed by all the members of the tribunal. But there is a rider in this section also, that if in case the majority of the members of the tribunal sign the award, that will also be a good award. That cannot be set aside only on the ground that out of 3, only 2 have signed it. But majority or all the members should sign the award. Thirdly, there is a clear-cut section, and Section 31(3), which says that the award should be reasoned one, until and unless the parties have decided otherwise. So any award which is not reasoned award can be challenged on this very ground under Section 34. Secondly, you can say the award cannot be the award should not be reasoned in case there was a settlement between the parties. Suppose the parties who were fighting with each other, they have reached at a settlement, and the arbitrator says only because of the settlement reached at between the parties, so this award is passed. So he is not required to give any reasoning. Only this reason that they have reached at a settlement is sufficient for that award. And the most important aspect of this section is Section 31(5). Sorry. It says that after the award is made, a signed copy shall be delivered to each party. So this clause is the most important clause of this section, because the limitation to challenge the award starts from the date when a party receives the duly signed copy of the award. So मैं अपना एक केस का इशू बता रहा हूं, वो चल रहा है केस मेरा. उस केस के अंदर जो एक पार्टी थी, क्लेमेंट जो था, उसने अपना एड्रेस चेंज कर दिया. काउंटर क्लेम्स वर अलाउड, हिज क्लेम वाज रिजेक्टेड. प्रोसीडिंग्स में आना छोड़ दिया, अपना एड्रेस चेंज कर लिया विदाउट डिस्क्लोजिंग दिस फैक्ट कि आई हैव चेंज माय एड्रेस। हम जो आर्बिट्रेटर था उसने उसके एड्रेस के ऊपर अवार्ड भेजा, उसने वो अवार्ड एक्सेप्ट नहीं हुआ, वहां पे पहुंचा नहीं। 2-3 बार आर्बिट्रेटर ने अवार्ड भेजा, उसके बाद उन्होंने वो अवार्ड डिपार्टमेंट के पास दे दिया कि जी ये आदमी के पास अवार्ड नहीं जा रहा। डिपार्टमेंट ने आर्बिट्रेशन अवार्ड के बेस पे एग्जीक्यूशन फाइल कर दी। उस आदमी ने आर्बिट्रेशन वो एग्जीक्यूशन में पेश होना शुरू कर दिया, वहां पर अपना रिप्लाई फाइल किया। उसके बाद उसने जाकर 2-2.5 महीने बाद 3 महीने बाद आर्बिट्रेशन अवार्ड की कॉपी रिसीव की, और फिर उसके बाद उस आदमी ने उसके भी 3-4 महीने बाद जाकर ऑब्जेक्शंस फाइल किए। उसके ऑब्जेक्शन इसी ग्राउंड पे डिसमिस हो गए कि ही हैज कम एट ए लेटर स्टेज, बट द हाई कोर्ट इज टेकिंग द व्यू दैट नो, once he has taken the copy of the award was not delivered to him as per the requirement of 31(5). So the limitation would start from the day he has taken the certified copy of the award. This is the judgment State of Maharashtra and others versus ARK Builders Private Limited, which clearly says that the limitation would start from that very day only. Now again, a latest judgment has come in the year 2018, not on the same facts, but that says that crux is that the act and conduct of the party is also to be seen. That in case he has taken the benefit of the award, but he is filing the objections at a later stage, taking the plea that he did not receive the copy in time, so that cannot be accepted. So this 31(5) is the basic point of time where the limitation to challenge the award under 34 shall start. मतलब जी आगे. Now the most important part is section 34. As we have already said that the arbitration agreement is basically between two parties to resolve the dispute with minimum or without interference of the court. So अगर हम इसको भी अपील की प्रोविजन दे देंगे, मैरिट्स के ऊपर चैलेंज करना, रीजनिंग के ऊपर चैलेंज करना, अगर वो सारा कुछ वो शुरू हो जाएगा, द वेरी पर्पस ऑफ द आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट शैल बी डिफीटेड, बिकॉज आर्बिट्रेटर इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू बी ए ज्यूरिस्टिक पर्सन ऑलवेज. कोई भी आदमी जो दोनों पार्टीज को एग्रीएबल है, he can be a person of the legal background, he cannot be a person of the legal background. He might be aware of the technicalities of their very profession, or he might not be aware of the technicalities of that profession. So, but the thing is that he is resolving the dispute with the amicable settlement of the parties, or with the or you can say impartial view, and without going into the technicalities of those things. So इसीलिए उसमें अपील की प्रोविजन नहीं दी गई है. लेकिन अपील की प्रोविजन नहीं दी गई है, दैट कैन नॉट टेक द राइट ऑफ ए पर्सन टू चैलेंज एनी ऑर्डर पास्ड अगेंस्ट हिम ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ लीगैलिटी और वैलिडिटी ऑफ दैट ऑर्डर. सो इसलिए वहां पर अपील की ना करके सेक्शन 34 के अंदर ऑब्जेक्शंस की प्रोविजन की गई है. ही कैन ऑब्जेक्ट टू एन अवार्ड दैट दिस अवार्ड इज नॉट एज पर द लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स, दिस अवार्ड इज नॉट एज पर द रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ द आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट. सो इसलिए वहां पर इलस्ट्रेटिव ना करते हुए एक एक्सक्लूसिव ग्राउंड्स दे दिए गए हैं, उन्हीं ग्राउंड्स के ऊपर वो अवार्ड को चैलेंज किया जा सकता है. I have shown the section. It clearly says, suppose the party says that I was not in the capacity, or there was some circumstances which made me incapacitated to take part in the proceeding or to adhere to the proceedings. So this award is not appropriate, this award is not worth, so it should be rejected. Second is, any law or any provision of the laws is contrary, or the award is contrary to the provisions of the law, so that can also be a ground to challenge the award. इसके अंदर मैं एक एक प्रोविजन के अंदर नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन इसमें एक मेन आता है कि अगेंस्ट द पब्लिक पॉलिसी. पहले ये पब्लिक पॉलिसी क्या है क्या नहीं है, दिस वाज नॉट गिवन इन द एक्ट. So there was a judgment of Honorable Supreme Court of the year 1999, which summed up the concept of this concept of public policy, and later on in 2015 also the Supreme Court has summed up the definition of public policy in the judgment of ONGC versus Western GECO International 2015 bracket 7 RCR Civil 226. In that case, the Supreme Court has summed up the concept of public policy, but as there was number of litigation only because of uncertainty about the public policy. So now with the amendment of this act, a explanation has been given that what is the concept of public policy. It simply says that inducement, fraud, or any award which is against the law is against the public policy of the public policy of India. So this is the basic concept of the grounds which are given to challenge any arbitration award. Secondly, आजकल एक dispute बड़ा चल रहा है with regard to limitation of the with regard to limitation to challenge the arbitration award. So section 34(3) clearly provides that an award can be challenged within 3 months, which can further be extended for a period of 30 days, not beyond that. So the limitation to challenge the award is 3 months. It can at the most be extended up to 30 days. So section 5 limitation, section 5 of the Limitation Act application would lie only in case the delay is less than 30 days. If the delay is more than 30 days, that we can file, but that is not maintainable. That can be dismissed purely on the ground that as the act clearly provides the limitation for the filing of the objections. So you have come beyond that period, so your application is not maintainable. So this is dismissed. So the second thing is that while deciding the objections, the court is to see whether the award falls within the ambit of the objections under 34 or not. And if it falls, the whole award is liable to go. And if it does not fall, it is okay. Court cannot say that this part is good or this part is bad. Or court cannot say that the award has been passed or the reason given by the arbitrator is good or bad, so this award is remanded back. No, the court is just to say, yes, this is a good award. No, this is not a good award. But if they are to, they cannot remand it back. They cannot bifurcate this. The award given on these 2 claims is good and award given on these 3 claims is bad. They cannot do that. Either to accept in toto or to reject in toto. This is the concept for passing the award, for passing the judgment under section 34. And secondly, this is the well settled principle of law. We always say whenever we file appeal under 37 that the objecting court cannot sit in the capacity of an appellate court. So they cannot go into the reasoning given by the arbitrator. If there are 2 possible views, arbitrator has taken the view which is not liked by the court. Court cannot say that I don't like this view, so this award goes. No. Arbitrator has given the reasoning, good or bad, that is to be accepted until and unless that falls within the definition of grounds given in section 34. So once the award has been passed, so what is the remedy available to the party against who, the judgment has been passed under 34. So what is the remedy available to the party who is aggrieved by that judgment? So that party has the remedy to file an appeal under section 37. Section 37 of the Act provides that what will be the orders which will be appealable. What are the orders which are appealable under the Act? It says that any order passed under section 34 is an appealable order. As I earlier had said, any order refusing to entertain the application under section 8, that is an appealable order. Granting or refusing any interim measure under section 9, that is also an appealable order. Then setting aside, refusing to set aside any award, that I have already said. The third thing is any order passed under section 16, that we have left section 16, that is with regard to the jurisdiction of this arbitral tribunal. And then is section 17 that I have talked about, interim measures. All these orders are appealable orders that can be filed, can be challenged before the Honorable High Court under section 37. Now, a new litigation or new aspect has been added to this, that whether the time limit given under section 34(3), that will also apply to the appeals filed under section 37. Earlier, we all must have filed the appeals with a delay of 100 days, with a delay of 200 days, and so on, under section 37 FUs. But recently, in a judgment of NV International versus State of Assam, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that no, the appeal is the continuation of the original proceedings. So once the original proceedings, that is 34 objections, that gives a particular time frame, 3 months plus 30 days. So even for the appeal, you have to follow that. There were 2-3 judgments also, Vrindra Constructions, NV International, and then one judgment was in the year 2020, only in the month of January, that also retreats that view. So we all know that in arbitration disputes, most of the cases, government or government functionaries are one of the parties. And we all know that when the government is to file appeal, the delay of 100 days is the basic concept. If they come before that, that's a very strange thing for persons who are filing the consuls, that अच्छा आप लोग इतनी जल्दी कैसे आ गए. So most of the appeals will be dismissed only on the ground of limitation if that concept is accepted. So this question of law is pending in various high courts. Some high courts have given as per the Supreme Court judgment, and some have said no, that we are having a different view. In our high court, the case is pending. Earlier that was fixed for 23rd March, but then because of this COVID, the lockdown was started, and now I think it's for 25th of July or 27th of July. That case is pending. So this is the basic concept that what is appeal के बारे में sorry बात करनी रह गई थी. As far as appeal is concerned, that is also within the footsteps of section 34. As in section 34, the particular grounds have been given, though in section 37 grounds have not been given, but that should also be strictly as per the provisions of section 34. You cannot say that in 34 the particular grounds were given, but in 37 we can go anywhere. No, you have to stick to that grounds only, because you are filing the appeal against the order passed in objections. You are not challenging the award itself here. You are challenging the order passed in the 34 objections. So you have to stick to those grounds only. Or you can say that appeals can be filed only on the legal grounds, not on ground on merits, or ground on the reasons given by the arbitrator or the material relied upon by him. Those things we cannot do, as we do in the case of civil appeals. One concept which I came to my mind right now, section 25, that provides that what will be the course of action in case of default by a party. So that 25(1) says, in case the party does not file the claim statement, what will be the course of action? मैंने arbitration clause invoke की, मैंने 11(6) में जाके arbitrator appoint करवाया, arbitrator ने अपनी proceedings शुरू कर दी, वो मेरे को letter पे letter लिख रहा है कि जी आओ जी अपनी claim statement file करो, मैं उस claim को file नहीं करता हूँ. Then what is the remedy left with the arbitrator? It says that it will terminate the proceedings. Whether this termination of proceedings amount to award or not, जैसे सूट डिसमिस इन डिफॉल्ट कर दिया तो वो डिक्री है कि नहीं है, तो वैसे ही क्लेम स्टेटमेंट मैंने फाइल नहीं की और उसने प्रोसीडिंग्स टर्मिनेट कर दी, whether that amounts to an award or not, that question is still pending before the Honorable High Court, and that is fixed for 25th of July. उसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक क्वेश्चन फ्रेम किया एक केस में, लेकिन उसको ओपन छोड़ दिया, और दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने कहा कि इट्स एन अवार्ड, और बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट ने कहा कि इट्स नॉट एन अवार्ड. So as far as our high court is concerned, that view is still to come, and that is fixed for 25th of July. एक चीज और इसमें एक कंसेप्ट नोट बनाने में कोई चीजें छूट गई थी. सेक्शन 42 talks about the jurisdiction of the courts. Section 42 about the jurisdiction of the court, it says, इसमें ज्यादा मैं इस चीज में नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन सिर्फ इतना ही एक चीज बताऊंगा कि where the objections will be filed और where the applications सेक्शन 8 की, सेक्शन 9 की अगर फाइल करनी है या कोई भी फाइल करनी है, वो कहां पर फाइल होंगी, what will be the jurisdiction. तो सेक्शन 42 says that in a court where the first application has been filed, all subsequent applications will be filed in that court only. Suppose चंडीगढ़ में बैठ के, मैं जीरकपुर में रहता हूं, पदम जी पंचकुला में रहते हैं, हम दोनों ने चंडीगढ़ में बैठ के एक एग्रीमेंट कर लिया कि हम मोहाली के अंदर कोई काम करेंगे. अब वहां पर वो काम करते करते हमारे बीच में डिस्प्यूट खड़ा हो गया. अब काम मोहाली में होना है, एग्रीमेंट चंडीगढ़ के अंदर हुआ है, पेमेंट का लेन देन जीरकपुर या मोहाली के अंदर, पंचकुला के अंदर हुआ है. सो विच कोर्ट हैज द जुरिस्डिक्शन टू एंटरटेन दीज डिस्प्यूट्स. तो उन्होंने कहा उस सेक्शन 42 से कि वेयर फर्स्ट एप्लीकेशन इज फाइल्ड, वैलिड एप्लीकेशन इज फाइल्ड. अब मैं फर्स्ट एप्लीकेशन जाके पटियाला फाइल कर दूं, दैट डज नॉट हैव द जुरिस्डिक्शन. सो जुरिस्डिक्शन इज इधर विद मोहाली और चंडीगढ़. सो अगर मैंने पहले सेक्शन 9 की एप्लीकेशन चंडीगढ़ में फाइल कर दी, all subsequent applications, whether it is of section 17, whether it is of section 34 objections, they will be filed at चंडीगढ़ only. ये नहीं है कि एक डिस्प्यूट एक ही ट्रांजैक्शन को लेकर एक एप्लीकेशन हम चंडीगढ़ में फाइल कर रहे हैं, एक पंचकुला में फाइल कर रहे हैं और एक बाद में मोहाली में फाइल कर रहे हैं. नो, the court which is having the valid jurisdiction, where the first application is filed with valid jurisdiction, all subsequent applications or appeals shall be filed before that court only. So friends, I think I have taken much of your time and did my best to discuss about the Arbitration Act, whatever little knowledge I had. बाकी सब लोग बैठे हैं, जो लोग आप कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हैं या क्वेश्चंस पूछना चाहते हैं, यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम.
धन्यवाद विशाल जी, आपने बहुत ही बखूबी आर्बिट्रेशन एक्ट की जो हिस्ट्री है और उसकी जो प्रेजेंट सिनारियो है वो सारा हमारे बीच में रखा है. आज हमारे बीच में आप सभी के साथ मिस्टर शेखर वर्मा एडवोकेट भी प्रेजेंट हैं. शेखर जी ने बहुत सारे आर्बिट्रेशन के केसेस हैंडल किए हैं और जो फेमस केस चंडीगढ़ का पार्श्वनाथ डेवलपर्स वर्सेस यूटी चंडीगढ़, उसमें यूटी को रिप्रेजेंट किया था और वो यूटी केस जीती भी बाद में. तो मैं शेखर जी को इनवाइट करता हूं कि वो भी 5-7 मिनट में अपनी थॉट्स हमारे सामने रखें. शेखर जी.
थैंक यू पदम जी. Insofar as the matter which relates to PDL and Chandidgarh admission is concerned, there is not much to share. Set few interesting aspects of the case. May I just briefly give the facts? In this case, we had terminated the contract with Parsna Developers. Parsna Developers had been given development rights of 123 acres of agricultural land in IT city, in IT park. For XYZ reason, Parsna could not develop that land. We issued a termination notice. They challenged this termination notice before the arbitral tribunal, which was initially comprised of 3 arbitrators. Incidentally, all were retired high court judges. I would not name them. Now, the first interesting aspect of this case was that these judges started charging exorbitant fee. What they would do, they would sit for 2 sessions in a single day, and they would charge for both sessions separately. So ultimately a situation arose that where we were faced with a situation that we had to shell out needlessly huge amounts from our pocket. Both the parties were actually suffering. So luckily for us, we approached High Court, the administration approached High Court, and luckily for us, Justice Hemant Gupta was having the roster. He understood the entire gambit. He set aside the entire arbitral tribunal. And what he did, he interfered in exercise of his powers under 226 and section 11. At that time, he had the jurisdiction of section 11. Especially, he was given that power. So he interfered and he appointed sole arbiter Justice Ravindran. So from there onward, Justice Ravindran, a retired judge of the Supreme Court, he took over the arbitration case, and he decided the entire matter within a span of say 6 to 8 months. Now, so long this matter was decided, he basically decided that whatever money the administration has received from PDL towards grant of development right, that we should refund, and the entire land should vest in the Chandigarh administration, and he upheld the termination notice. Now, in the entire gambit, what happened is, inadvertently in the award, Justice Ravindran committed a computational error. The amount that we were supposed to refund to the PDL was calculated as say as rupees 100, but due to computational error, it was mentioned as rupees 60. Now, when I am saying 100 or 60, it was actually in crores. The amount that was, may I just give the figures also? The amount that was we were supposed to refund was around say 500 crores, and due to inadvertent computational error, it was mentioned in the award as say 300 crores. So there was a gap of around 200 crores, two odd 100 crores. Now PDL was aware of this fact. PDL negotiated with us that we should now settle as per the award, and they should be given refund. So PDL just wanted that we should not challenge this award, because once our termination notice was upheld, there was no question of any refund. But somehow to resolve this issue, Government of India also interfered, and they advised us to resolve this issue. Now, as a part of a resolution process, we agreed to refund this amount to PDL as per the award, which was around 300 crores. Now, when this amount was refunded, a relinquishment deed was executed. After relinquishment deed, the possession of the land again vested in the administration. Now, after one day, PDL mischievously filed an application under Section 33 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, saying that due to computational error, we have received less amount, and therefore the award should be reopened. Now, we oppose this application, that this is a mischievous act on the part of PDL. We are not supposed to refund anything more which has been agreed to in the relinquishment deed. Now, on this ground, Justice Ravindran got stuck. He was actually stuck, and he called upon both the parties to argue on this issue. Now, insofar Section 33 of the Arbitration Act is concerned, it provides a very simple and plain remedy. The remedy it provides is that in case there is a computational error in the award, any of the parties can apply for correction of that award, but that correction has to be within 30 days from the receipt of the award, or any other time frame as may be agreed between the parties. Now, this application in the present case was filed after valid discharge of the agreement. So whatever the amount we had agreed to, we had refunded. Land again vested in the administration. So here was a situation where award stood discharged in all aspects. Now, Justice Ravindran understood the entire gambit. He simply invoked the concept of accord and satisfaction, which he had already decided in another case, in the very well celebrated case, namely Bogara versus some insurance company. I will give the citation also. In that case, Justice Ravindran said, once an arbitration agreement or a contract has been validly discharged, rightly, wrongly, and parties have accepted benefits under that discharge, they cannot go back and claim that no, something else is required to be discharged. So in these circumstances, Justice Ravindran dismissed their application under Section 33, which is prima facie, otherwise I would say was acceptable or should have been accepted. But Justice Ravindran invoked this concept of accord and satisfaction, and then he dismissed his application. Against this application, now PDL filed an application under Section 34 to challenge the order passed under Section 33. Now, before the objecting court, our argument was very simple. Our argument was, insofar as Section 34 is concerned, under Section 34, only an award can be challenged. You cannot challenge an order that has been passed on an application under Section 33. Fortunately for us, our case was accepted by the district court, objecting court, and now the matter is pending in the High Court. Though High Court is very reluctant to interfere because Government of India and everyone else is involved in this case, but nevertheless, this case is still pending in the High Court, and the issue involved is whether Section 33 order could have been challenged in 34 in a case where awards stand discharged in all aspects. So insofar this part is concerned, I cut short. Now coming to the main topic that we are discussing today, I have been told to speak extempo, though I could not prepare anything, but few points I wish to share insofar Arbitration Act is concerned, with whatever command I have on this subject. Now, please note a very interesting aspect of this entire act. We are all well versed with the concept of percept. Percept is a formal certificate issued by a civil court. Say I have obtained a decree in Chandigarh against Vishalji. He has properties in say Ludhiana. Now decree has been passed by a competent court of jurisdiction in Chandigarh, but properties of the judgment debtor are in Ludhiana. So as per section 27, I believe I am correct. Section 27 of CPC, I am supposed to obtain a percept, and then a decree, a transfer certificate is issued. Percept is nothing, a transfer certificate that a decree is transferred from Chandigarh to Ludhiana for formal execution. Now, insofar Arbitration Act is concerned, Justice S.K. Kaul has given a judgment that insofar Arbitration Act is concerned, no formal percept is required. You obtain an award in Chandigarh, you take that award, file an execution in Nagaland. Absolutely fine. So no formal percept is required. Idea is just to save time and formality and technicalities. This is the first point which I just wanted to share. Now the second aspect that I wanted to share is definition of court, which is given in section 2E of the act. Definition of the court is very important for all of us to understand. Definition of court, as in normal parlance, as we understand, is a principal civil court. But in normal parlance, as I would assume that all these persons who are listening to me, they are not at all aware of CPC. I will assume. I'm sorry. I will assume this. If you ask a normal lawyer or a student of law, which is the principal civil court, he would, by default, he would say civil judge senior division. By default, this is my experience. I may be wrong. My experience. Some of you may be very well aware of the correct position. The correct position is principal civil court of original jurisdiction is always the court of district judge, not civil judge senior division. Now, certain states have high courts with which have been defined as principal civil courts, namely Delhi, Bombay, and I think one more state, Himachal. So wherever in the act you read the word civil court, that word relates to either district judge, court of district judge, or the high court in three states, namely Himachal, Delhi, and Mumbai. So all applications, section 9 petition, all other applications have to be filed either before the district judge or before the respective high courts, where high court is the court of principal civil jurisdiction. Now there is an amendment. There is an amendment in the act. Now, insofar domestic arbitrations are concerned, for domestic arbitrations, principal civil court of original jurisdiction has the power to entertain a petition under section 9 and all other petitions which have been defined under the act. But insofar as international commercial arbitrations are concerned, it is only the high court which has the jurisdiction to entertain a section 9 petition or any other petition which has been or which can be filed under this act. So we should be very clear what is the meaning of court. Section 2E defines court, and in section 34, section 37, section 9, we use the word court. Court means court of principal, means principal civil court of original jurisdiction. In Punjab, Haryana, it would be the court of district judge. We should remember this aspect, because most of the lawyers commit this mistake. They go to the court of civil judge senior division, waste time, then they get their cases back and they again file before the district judges. Now this is the definition of court. Now kindly turn to section 4, which is very important section. Section 4 of the Arbitration Act. If we are dealing with arbitration cases, we cannot proceed unless we are aware of section 4 and section 5. Section 4 provides a very important aspect of this act. It simply says, if in case we have an inter se agreement, in that agreement we are supposed to follow certain formalities. And in case we have somehow missed to follow those formalities and a stage has crossed, a particular stage has crossed, then we have waived that right. Suppose if as a party to an agreement, I had a particular right to exercise in a particular manner. for XYZ reason I could not exercise that right. Galti hogi, mudda khatam. Then I have waived of that right. I cannot go back and tell the court or the arbitrator, sorry, I had this right and I intend to invoke this right despite the fact that I have already missed the opportunity. So that section 4 we should be very clear when we are drafting, when we are processing our arbitration notices and filing our claims. Section 4 should be kept in mind. Now section 5 is the next point. It provides for extent of judicial intervention. Now this is the point where Vishalji spoke that the concept of arbitration is necessarily means minimal interference of the courts. To this extent, I am on the same page as Mr. Vishalji was. Now, the little bit digression. I wish to refer to three words, three phrases rather. Now, basically, I just want to refer to Section 30 of the Arbitration Act. May I just quickly refer to Section 30? Section 30 of the Arbitration Act uses three words: arbitration, mediation, and conciliation. These are three different words with different meanings. We should be very clear. Arbitration is a formal judicial proceedings. In the nature of formal judicial proceedings, it has all the ingredients of a judicial proceedings. Mediation means a person is appointed between two parties, and that person who has been appointed as a mediator help both the parties to reach a particular conclusion. He is the mediator. He does not give you the solution. He just help you to reach up to a particular stage where you can proceed further. He is a mediator. So mediator, now the third part is conciliator. Conciliator is the person who actually can give you a solution also. Now this act is Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Now this act is in three parts, primarily in three parts. The first part of the act, if you may quickly go to the index, this is a very interesting aspect. Normally we don't use this aspect because we deal with only domestic arbitration. Now part one of this act deals with arbitration. Part 2 deals with enforcement of certain foreign awards. Presently we are not concerned, let us not get confused. Part 3 is important. Part 3 is conciliation part. Conciliation means a person is formally appointed as a conciliator. He helps both the parties to reach up to a particular conclusion, and he also helps both the parties to resolve the issues, and he also gives his own opinion. I am using the word opinion. A mediator cannot speak his mind. He cannot give his own opinion, but a conciliator can. He can give his own opinion. Once he has given his own opinion, then he cannot act as an arbitrator. Please mark my words. Once a conciliator has given his opinion on merits of the case, he cannot act as a conciliator. So that conciliation part starts from section 61 onwards. We will get into details some other day. Now I go back to section 30. Before an arbitral tribunal, section 30, it says settlement. May I just read quickly? It is not incompatible with an arbitration agreement for an arbitral tribunal to encourage settlement of the dispute, and with the agreement of the parties, the arbitral tribunal may use mediation, conciliation, and other procedures at any time during arbitral proceedings to encourage settlement. If during arbitral proceedings the parties settle the dispute, the arbitral tribunal shall terminate the proceedings. What consequent proceedings? Arbitral proceedings. And if requested by both the parties and not objected to by the arbitral tribunal, record the settlement in the form of an arbitral award on agreed terms. Under section 30, he can pass an award on agreed terms, but while acting as a conciliator, he will pass an conciliation order, which will be termed as arbitration award. May I just quickly refer to section 61 onwards. Section 61 says application and scope, commencement of conciliation proceedings, section 62, 63 number of conciliators, 64 appointment of conciliators, 65 submission of statement to conciliator, and so on. And most important is section 74. The settlement agreement shall have the same status and effect as if it is an arbitral award on agreed terms on the substance of dispute rendered by an arbitral tribunal under section 30. ठीक है ना जी? But conciliator is altogether a different person from an arbitrator. Arbitrator will enter into a dispute and he has powers akin to judicial powers, but a conciliator does not enjoy those powers. He basically ensures that matter is compromised and both the parties get benefit out of this settlement, whereas arbitrator has to decide the dispute on merits. There may be a case that where a party wins on 100 points and the other party loses on all issues, and then there can be a case where a party can win on 60 points and the other party can take on 40 points. This is the scope of arbitration. But insofar conciliation party is concerned, both the parties get benefit to the extent of 50% each, or as per the settlement, they are free to. Now the third aspect which I wish to refer is, again, I go back to section 5. Section 5 is the basic section which we should keep in mind while pleading, drafting, arguing our cases. Section 5 says, extent of judicial intervention, notwithstanding, again, notwithstanding clause, notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force, in matters governed by this part, no judicial authority shall intervene except where so provided in this part. This part means from section 1 to 43. Section 1 to 43. If I read the entire part, section 1 to 43, the remedies available to us to approach the court is firstly in section 9, where we can approach the court before passing off, before invocation of arbitration clause, even after passing off the award also we can invoke section 9. This is the first remedy we have to go to a judicial forum. Second is we file an application under section 8 for referring the parties to arbitration to. Third is section 34 or section 35, 37 then. Other than this, we cannot approach any court of law. Suppose Vishalji just referred to section 12 and schedule attached to that section 12. As per the amended schedules, now as an arbitrator, I have to give certain declarations that I don't have any personal relationship with the ABC party, or I am not at all related with the parties. This much declaration I have to give at the time when I take over the arbitration process. Suppose I have given a false declaration. Suppose I have given a incorrect declaration. Now that declaration is incorrect. You know, other party know, everybody knows. Now whether I have a right to approach court at this stage when he has given an incorrect declaration, answer is no. I may have given a false declaration, but since the act nowhere provides that I can approach court, I cannot. I will be taking up this point in my objections under section 34. That look, at the relevant time, I called upon the arbitrator to give a disclosure. He gave this disclosure for XYZ reason. This disclosure is bad in law. Therefore, what should be set aside? Idea is again, as Vishalji just said, idea is again to minimize interference of the courts and to shorten the litigation period. This is the basic idea. So section 5 we have read, 6 is nothing, 7 is arbitration agreement. Now prior to amendment, there were certain instances. Justice Ravindran rather gave a judgment on while deciding this issue. There were certain instances where I would send a purchase order to one of my vendors, and based on that purchase order, without any arbitration agreement, I'm saying without any arbitration agreement, that purchase order was acted upon. Other party would supply me certain material under that purchase order. Now, this situation was not covered in any of the provisions given in section 7. To cater to that situation, Justice Ravindran gave a well-celebrated judgment. I just don't remember the judgment right now. Justice Ravindran held in case of such like situations, in case a purchase order has been given, other parties had acted upon, and in case that in that purchase order there is a wording, or there is a sentence, or there is something written which has some semblance to an arbitration agreement, that will be taken as a written arbitration agreement. So taking clue from that judgment, now this amendment has come. I am talking about subclause B of subsection 4, section 7. It says, an exchange of letters, telex, telegrams, or other means of telecommunication, including communication through electronic means, which provide a record of the agreement. So an agreement may not be a signed agreement between two of us, but at the same time, in case it is it's properly exchanged, just like a Indian Contract Act, it has been exchanged, acted upon, it will be an arbitration agreement, provided there is something written in that agreement or purchase order, whatever it called be, that dispute will be subject to arbitration. In case of a dispute, there will be arbitration. If that is written, it may not have been countersigned by the other party. It will be a valid arbitration agreement. This is the import of this new amendment in section 7. Section 8, Vishalji has read. Now section 8 again gives a very interesting reading as per the new amended act. It says, it uses the word a judicial authority before which an action is brought in a matter which is the subject matter of an arbitration agreement shall, if a party to the arbitration agreement, please mark the words, if a party to an arbitration agreement or any person claiming through or under him, very important words, any person claiming through or under him, so applies not later than the date of submitting his first statement on the substance of the dispute, then notwithstanding, please mark these words, then notwithstanding any judgment, decree or order of the Supreme Court or any court, refer the parties to arbitration unless it finds prima facie no valid arbitration agreement exists. Now, this amendment has been brought in because of the judgment rendered by the Supreme Court in Sundaram Finance case. In Sundaram Finance case, Supreme Court held that the effort of the court should be to ensure that parties are referred to arbitration, and effort of the court should not be to assume jurisdiction. I am talking civil court. Effort of the civil court should not be to assume jurisdiction. Effort of the civil court should be to relegate parties to arbitration. Pichha chadao inse. This should be the effort. Now there are certain Supreme Court judgments which had created an illusion, which had created
Shekhar ji, actually we are running short of time, so
okay, then we cut it short. Some other day.
Yes, sure.
ठीक है ना? Done.
Thank you.
Done. Sorry. Done.
बोल रहे हो तो खत्म कर दो सेक्शन 8 जो आप बोल रहे हो, जो आप सेक्शन 8
सेक्शन 8 का ये था विशाल, सेक्शन 8 का ये था सुप्रीम कोर्ट, देयर आर सर्टेन जजमेंट ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जिसने कि ये डिफाइन कर दिया था कि आप सेक्शन 8 के प्रोविजन से बाहर जा सकते हो। होगा क्या, एक्ट की पूरी स्कीम खराब होगी इससे। एक्ट की पूरी स्कीम खराब होने से इस अमेंडमेंट लेके आए, अमेंडमेंट ये लेकर के आए सुंदरम फाइनेंस के बाद कि कुछ भी कोई सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट आई हो, कुछ भी जजमेंट आई हो जिसने सेक्शन 8 को डिलीट कर दिया, उसको भूल जाओ। पार्टीज शुड बी रेफर टू आर्बिट्रेशन। दिस इज द इंपोर्ट ऑफ दिस न्यू अमेंडमेंट। एक बात होगी। दूसरी बात जो मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट है, मैं क्विकली बात खत्म कर लूं। In case there is a special statute, namely rent acts, an arbitrator cannot assume role of a designated authority given in specialized acts. For example, rent controller, he cannot adjudicate issues entailing rent matters or rent issues. ठीक है ना? तो वो जो भी एक स्पेशल एक्ट होगा, स्पेशल एक्ट इतना ही चलेगा। He cannot assume jurisdiction of or from the special acts. ये याद रखना है, बिल्कुल नहीं भूलना है।
Thank you Vishal ji and thank you Shekhar ji. I think we'll start with our questions. There are 2 questions already on the Facebook. Is there any limitation to initiate arbitration proceedings once dispute arises? हाँ जी, आप बोल दो, कोई बात नहीं, आप बोलो विशाल जी।
There is limitation for referring the dispute to the arbitration. आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ जी, हाँ अब आ रही है।
हाँ, there is a limitation to initiate the arbitration proceedings. It is to be governed by Limitation Act. There is no provision as given in the Arbitration Act, but it is to be governed by the Limitation Act. So within 3 years of the, what I think, Shekhar ji will correct me if I am wrong. Shekhar ji? Hello?
Shekhar ji, you can unmute yourself.
It's 3 years from the date of the dispute it has arose. It can be invoke the arbitration clause.
आप अनम्यूट करो अपने आप को शेखर जी। हाँ, हो गया, हाँ जी।
In so limitation part is concerned, the limitation would start from the date and a valid arbitral tribunal is constituted.
No. He says for presuming there arises a dispute on 1st of January 2020, तो कब तक arbitration invoke करनी शुरू करें? Invoke the arbitration.
मैं वही कह रहा हूँ विशाल जी, जो आप डिस्प्यूट का आपका मेरा डिस्प्यूट राइज हो गया आज, लेकिन आज की डेट में आर्बिट्रल ट्रिब्यूनल है ही नहीं है। करंट स्टॉप इट आज की डेट में को है ही नहीं है।
Stop what?
Arbitral
I didn't say anything. There is a judgment by Apex Court wherein, considering the scope of Section 11, the Supreme Court held that limitation is an issue which we can still consider while referring the matter to arbitration and appointing arbitrators.
that Vishal is right. That Vishal is
3
right.
years is the limitation which the Supreme Court also has prescribed.
Limitation Act.
Limitation Act is applicable. It's basically a contractual dispute, na? But your limitation will start from the date a validly constituted arbitral tribunal is in place. This is what I want to clear.
No, that's not the case.
The question is different, sir. So just let me clarify. The question is different. The question is, if there arises a dispute between the parties on 1st January 2020, till when can he invoke the jurisdiction? Till when can he file an application under Section 11?
He will have to take steps within 3 years for constitution of the arbitral tribunal.
That's the question.
And then he will file a claim.
Yeah. And the second question was whether receiver can be appointed by an arbitrator.
Receiver can be appointed by arbitrator.
Section 17.
17.
Section 17.
Absolutely agree.
Now we are open for questions. Those who want to ask, please can unmute one by one and ask the questions.
May I ask a question?
हाँ जी, पूछो.
Good evening, everybody. Shekhar ji and Vishal ji, अभी आपने कहा कि special act will prevail over the arbitral tribunal. The broad. So RERA Act is a special act. So, but mostly the contracts, when we buy a home in a contract, the builder says it will refer to arbitration. So what will prevail? RERA Act or the arbitration of the builder, contract of builder?
Then RERA.
Mute, unmute sir, unmute.
Piyush, in RERA also, na, this is specially mentioned that this is, Piyush, can you hear me? You have referred to RERA, and there are certain other acts, say Consumer Protection Act also. In those acts, there are certain provisions which says that these acts are not in derogation but in addition to. I am not in derogation but in addition to. Section 3 of Consumer Protection says the CP Act would be in addition to, not in derogation. So I am not on that act. I am on Rent Act. I am on Rent Act, which says there is no such provision that in derogation or in addition. Rent Act is a special statute and only a rent controller can decide. Likewise, like
sir,
in the same lines, he is asking about RERA authority.
RERA also section 89 is very clear. RERA says not in derogation but in addition. I can read section 89 or 88 of RERA also.
Just a minute, I can lay over hand on the act.
100% sure.
शेखर जी, जैसे MSME एक्ट के अंदर है ना कि उसमें वो आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट करते हैं, but that says that they will be governed by provisions of 1996 Act. So that's also is a special act, but
no, that's a special act, but they for a particular purpose of arbitration, they have adopted that's a different
provisions of arbitration. So it is to be seen that what action they have adopted.
Absolutely. Now I'm section 89 of RERA, Piyush. Act to have overriding effect. The provisions of this act shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent therewith contained in any other law for the time being force. 88 reads, the provisions of this act shall be in addition to and not in derogation of the provisions of any other laws for the time being force. So I am not on these acts. These are in addition to, not in derogation. Now there is a judgment rendered by Justice Adesh Kumar Goyal on Consumer Protection Act, where he has upheld the contention of the allottees, where he says that Consumer Protection Act will prevail over arbitration. In case an allottee has invoked provisions of Consumer Protection Act, notwithstanding the fact there was an arbitration agreement between the consumer and the builder, he says CP Act will prevail because Section 3 of the Consumer Protection says that Consumer Protection Act will be in addition to, not in derogation. So we have to be very clear with the language of the acts. So RERA and Consumer Protection Act are separate issues. I am on rent controller and say any other, say IT Act. In IT Act there is a specific authority. In IT Act there is a specific authority. In case I have an agreement with you, which is covered within the ambit of IT, within the provisions of IT Act. In that IT Act, the wording is that no other authority will interfere. Only the designated authority under the IT Act will interfere to adjudicate the compensation I am entitled to. So an arbitrator cannot go into this issue. Only the adjudicating officer appointed under the IT Act will go into that issue. So we will have to be very careful with the provisions of each and every act.
Karan wants to add in something over here. Karan, what do you want to say?
Piyush ji, in response to what Piyush ji is saying, the entire debate with regard to a specific act or arbitration act and its conflict thereon is, when it comes to the jurisdiction part, like the issue with regard to the custody of the children cannot be dealt with by arbitration.
Yes.
Issues with regard to NHAI, they have a separate act which governs their arbitration. Similarly, Cooperative Societies Act, they have their own manner of appointment of arbitrator. And not with regard to Consumer Protection Act and RERA for that matter. Because these are jurisdiction where both arbitrator also can decide various issues and RERA also is a supervising authority. They too have a jurisdiction in a separate concept. But the arbitrator can still decide as to what is the issue, and then there is a judgment passed by Justice Jasbir Singh while dealing with this entire aspect of Section 8 of Arbitration Act, because in consumer protection cases, a lot of builders filed an application under Section 8 saying consumer protection complaints be referred to the arbitrator. And those applications were dismissed, saying that the Arbitration Act has a separate view and we have a separate power and we can still deal with it.
Those application I had filed, Karan, and all my applications were dismissed. Ultimately, the view taken by Justice Jasbir Singh has been upheld by Justice Adarsh Kumar Goyal in the Supreme Court against me.
Yes.
now another thing, just to add one thing, there is a judgment.
I like you, therefore I was not naming your name.
There is a judgment there's a judgment Booz Allen, BOOZ, Booz Allen, ALLEN, where this aspect has been considered and decided by the Supreme Court. The Piyush, all your queries will be answered in the judgment. Booz Allen.
That is 2014 Supreme Court or 2015.
All these issues has been handled.
Can I add one thing?
Mr. Jindal. Yes, Mr. Jindal, please.
As far as the first point, which one of the participants, I think, Mr. Shekhar had added, that precept can be issued. Precept can only be issued if a execution is pending before a court. Then it is a order to the other court that, okay, attach this property, which attachment remains valid for a particular period, which we had discussed while discussing order 21 and the relevant sections of the CPC. So precept is not issued, but the execution can be got transferred. That has also been now set at rest, that execution can be filed at any stage. Suppose I file the execution at Delhi. There is no property at Delhi. Once I file the execution at Delhi, then I have to get it transferred to the courts at Ludhiana or at any place where the judgment debtor will have the property. So that is very clear that the execution has to be got transferred. Secondly, as far as the question of courts were concerned, let me tell you that there is a Punjab Courts Act which is prevalent in Punjab. Under that Punjab Courts Act, the various courts, subordinate civil judge senior division, civil judge junior division, and all other courts have been created. Now, under that act, a power has been delegated from the court of district judge that he can do the entrustment work of the cases to the civil judge senior division, which was earlier senior sub judge of any place. So under the Punjab Courts Act, that division has been made, but in certain acts, it has been said that for Arbitration Act, for Hindu Marriage Act, the provision is that the case has to be tried and decided by the court of district judge, which is a court of ordinary original civil jurisdiction court. Because earlier there was a dispute that whether the additional district judge under the Arbitration Act was competent to decide the matter or not. So that was also set at rest by saying that additional district judge has the same powers and he can decide the matter. So that was there. And lastly, as far as the Limitation Act was concerned, Article 113 of the Limitation Act says that wherever there is no limitation prescribed for any act or any case to be filed. 113. 113 article. So the period is 3 years. 3 years has to be counted from the date when the cause of action first accrued to you. It is not a continuing cause of action. The cause of action has was first accrued to you. From there, the limitation will start, because you remember the case of Gurdev Singh versus State of Punjab in service matters. then it was said that otherwise prior thereto there was no limitation for challenging a order which was disciplinary order which was considered to be void. At any point of time after 10 years, 15 years, the order could have been challenged. Then the Supreme Court said that to say that no limitation is prescribed for any type of order or any type of suit, that runs afoul of the Limitation Act, because Limitation Act provides limitation for each and every type of suit. And if there is no particular limitation prescribed, then the residuary article, that is 113 of the Limitation Act. So to say that no limitation is prescribed or Arbitration Act, that is wrong. So we have to bring our suit within 3 years from the date when the dispute for the first time has arisen. Now we are to decide that on what date that dispute has arisen. That is the intelligence of the advocate, that how he manipulates the things and leads the case before the court. So these points which I wanted to clarify, as far as all this confusion was there regarding the certain points. So
Right.
precept is not.
May I just quickly get in?
Yes.
I was on the issue of percept. Kindly notice the judgment. Then we will discuss in details at some other time. Judgment I am referring to is Sundaram Finance Limited versus Abdul Samad, SAMAD, and another. The short question that arose before the Supreme Court in this case was that whether I am first supposed to file my execution before in a court of competent jurisdiction having proper jurisdiction, or may I just read the whether a party is required, whether execution application is to be first filed in the court having jurisdiction over the arbitration proceeding for execution and then to obtain transfer of the decree, or can be straight away filed and executed in the court where the assets are located. So this was the short question before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has answered that I need not to file it in the court having jurisdiction. I can straight away file and get it executed in the court where assets are located. So I need not to obtain percept. I need not to even file it in the court of competent jurisdiction as we normally call it, and then obtain a percept. Supreme Court says you can directly take this award, get it executed in the Nagaland. So judgment I have just given. Citation kindly note. It is civil appeal number 1650 of 2018. This has been authored by Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul. So I need not to file execution, then get it transferred.
No. I fully agree with the judgment of the Supreme Court of India, because it says that if you want to execute the award, it is not necessary that you have to file the execution application.
Precisely.
But it says that you can file it anywhere in the. Once you have exercised the option, then you cannot withdraw that execution application and file.
I'm sorry, sir.
The execution application at a second place.
I'm sorry, sir. I could not read this part in the judgment. Nevertheless, we are on the same page that it can be filed at a place where assets are located.
Yes, that can be filed straight away. But the question is, as far as the because one thing which I can clarify is that we are concerned here on the basic law, because interpretations may vary from judge to judge, from court to court, and sometimes tomorrow, if this Sundaram judgment is set aside and we acting upon that judgment file the case, then we will be the sufferer.
So long as it is not set aside, we are bound by this judgment.
I think it's about 5:45. We'll have to conclude, sir. We can't go on.
एक question मेरा भी Vishal.
We only have space for at the most one question. Last question. Yes, Padamji, please. Either.
विशाल जी आपने कहा था कि 30 days के अंदर नोटिस का रिप्लाई करना है फर्स्ट पार्टी ने, जिसको पब्लिक नोटिस गया है
जी.
If he fails to reply within 30 days,
yes,
मान लीजिए 31st day तो इसने नोटिस दिया है, वो एक पिटीशन डाल देता है सेक्शन 11 की हाई कोर्ट में
जी.
बट 30 से अभी नोटिस ऑफ मोशन हो गया मान लीजिए, और दूसरे 32nd डे ही आर्बिट्रेटर अपॉइंट कर दिया फर्स्ट पार्टी ने, तो
ऑन द नोटिस
रॉन्ग.
पहले जजमेंट ये थी कि दे कैन, बट अब ये है कि दोनों पार्टीज की अगर सहमति है तो ठीक है, अदरवाइज once the 30 days have gone, he has forfeited his right.
Absolutely right, ji.
If the other party says yes, I am okay with the person appointed, then they can proceed further.
तो जो हाई कोर्ट अपॉइंट करेगी वो माना जाएगा बेसिकली।
नो नो
माना
नो नो
जाएगा।
नो हाँ,
ये दोनों
अदरवाइज
पार्टी एग्री करे, ये दोनों पार्टी
एग्री कर गई तो एग्री तो ठीक है, अदरवाइज कोर्ट अपॉइंट करेगी उसको।
मोटी बात पदम जी, सेक्शन 11 फाइल होने से पहले लॉ ये था, सेक्शन 11 फाइल होने से पहले कभी भी मैंने अपॉइंट कर दिया 30 दिनों के बाद भी तो चलता था। द मोमेंट सेक्शन 11 इज फाइल्ड, आई लूज माय राइट, आई लूज माय राइट टू अपॉइंट। उसका विशाल जी जैसे ठीक है, बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं, उसके बाद अगर म्यूचुअली एग्रीबल है ठीक है, चलता रहेगा तो तक है।
My apologies to all our participants that
You
we
need
will
not
not be.
apologize.
We can't take more questions. It's 5:45 already. We generally finish up. It was a very interesting topic. I take this opportunity to thank you, Vishal ji. Vishal ji, we've been together for good about 19 years, Vishal ji, now. We've studied a lot together and practiced together. It was a wonderful session where you gave a wonderful insight into the arbitration law, and coupled with Shekhar ji, who added a lot of practical aspects. Of course, that magnanimous figures of 300 crores and 500 crores made it even more interesting. Money makes everything interesting. And to add in by Mr. Jindal also. So I thank you, our main speaker, Mr. Vishal ji, and then Mr. Shekhar ji and Mr. Jindal. And thank you all the participants for being there. And a very interesting topic. I suppose we'll have to have another round of session, or another session on this,
Definitely,
so that we can have very good discussions on this and maybe practical aspects more. It's a lengthy topic. For today,
it was the overview. Then we can have topic wise, subject section wise.
Actually,
every section needs a session.
And we can imagine the popularity of today's this webinar, that we have more than 800 views already on Facebook, and we have a lot of questions coming over there also. But since it's already 5:45, we have to wrap up. Thank you everyone. Thank you the speakers, and thank you all the participants for attending. Hope to see you in the next webinar as well on Friday.
Bye Vishal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody. Thank you Vishal ji. Thank you.